And your first year on the factory Yamaha team, did you expect to have the success that you had coming off of the wrench team, or did you expect to maybe be the second rider? Because obviously Jake's been there a long time, and he knows the bike better than anyone. Like, what was your expectation when you first arrived at the team?
Well, Attack in 23 didn't do so hot. Like, for whatever reason, I don't know, bike setup or riders, I'm not really sure. But the results weren't as great as years past. So, and then everybody was, saying that the Yamaha was, outdated, and then, Ducati and the BMW came in right away and just started doing really good. So going into Attack, I didn't really know. Of course, I knew we were going to be battling up front, but I didn't know it was going to be as consistent as what we have been. The team has done a good job to elevate that Yamaha for sure, but just because of the Ducati and the BMW were new bikes, the Yamaha is an older model bike. So I didn't really think that. I mean, I did know like we were going to be battling up front, but I didn't think it's consistent as we were for sure. Like there was some races where it was like, it was really close with the Ducatis and BMWs at tracks that, that I shouldn't have been up there with them. So, but like I said, I knew it was going to be battling up front, but not as good as what I thought.
When did you think you had that moment, that epiphany that it's like, hey, wait a second, I'm actually really fast on this bike? Like, is there? Because I know for me, I know exactly when I was like, oh man. Yeah. Bobby's not supposed to be doing that. Why is he doing that? And it's like,
yeah. So, man, so I'm trying to think of the season, dude. It's weird. Like, I try to look back at the season. There's not many races I remember. It was like this year. Like, it's so weird. This is like the first year. Like, I'm so in this like little bubble. So like, I can't even think of. It's kind of bad and good. Because I would get off, let's just say if I won the race on Sunday, it's like I don't even remember the feeling. It's hard for me to enjoy it because all I'm thinking about was how to be better the next day, or I got to do it again the next day or the next race or something like that. So it's weird. Like when I think about the season now, it's a lot of it's a blur. But I knew like during testing in the winter, like we always tested this podium club. I knew like I was really consistent doing some fast lap times for that place, and I knew I was like, man, it could be a really good year, just the consistency. And each time we tested, I've never experienced it. Each time we tested, we got faster and faster. The bike got better and better. So it was like the team had the drive to make the bike better each time we went on track, which is really like, that's super cool of Stamboli. Like, that dude is going to work every day, even during the season, to try to make that bike better. And he did. And it got even better from the beginning of the year to the end of the year as well.
Right. So, how does the factory team compare to the non-factory team from previous years, as far as just the bike itself?
So one of the things that being a factory rider is the testing. The testing is like, man, the testing is key for, to get the bike developed around you and to try different parts and stuff like that. Most privateer teams test once or twice before the season. We tested like five 2-day tests before the season. And then just the constant development on the bike. He's always trying to get something from Europe, which Europe I don't think helped out too much last year. It was more just all in-house, Richard Stamboli and his crew there. But it was just the constant development of the bike. One weekend we have a different swing arm, or one weekend we try a different tank. It was, different motor spec, a few different motor specs. So that's like the perks of being on a factory team. They're always developing, and they have, the budget to do so. When you're on a privateer team, like they're doing their best they can, but you're not going to test a lot. And the bike is basically the bike for the year usually. They're just scraping the funds to get it to the track. So that's the little different thing about factory team, is you're always developing, you're always trying to improve, and then they have the budget to do so. And we even did during the middle of the year, we even tested at Mid-Ohio, because the Yamaha struggled there really bad in 23, and we're like, Yamaha's like, well, we need to test there. So we ended up testing there, so it's just all these little perks like that, which are super cool.
Was that an easy transition for you to change your mindset from having a bike that you don't have to change all year to, every day it could be a different thing you might be trying?
The mindset was, I was always excited. I like to try it. I like testing. Like most people don't like testing. I love testing because I like to see like little improvements and what like makes a bike better or not. Now it was from transitioning from my ADR bike to the factory bike. It was a pretty easy transition, even though the characteristics of the motorcycle was all still there, so I knew that already. But everything was different on it. You know, different swing arm, different motor spec, different gearbox. The ergonomics a little bit. The seating position was a little bit different on the factory bike. Some positive, some negative. But yeah, the mindset was always, I was always excited to ride the thing. You never knew. Like, I mean, and going into race weekends, you know, they have so much data. You know, they already knew the gearing to the racetrack. They already knew like semi what spring weight we want to run, just from years of development on that bike. So that was key as well.
Another thing that I noticed from you this year is riding in the rain. You're usually not known as a wet weather rider, but the couple of rain races this year, you actually did really, really well. Like, what was it about the team or the bike that gave you the confidence to go out there and ride?
Honestly, dude, I didn't really believe it. I thought it was snake oil for a while when Richard always talks about on his little podcast he does about how good of a rain bike he makes, you know, for the rider. And I didn't believe it until I actually at Barber this year for race 2. It was soaking wet, but for morning warm up, I mean, it was just pissing down rain. And that was like the proper first day I got on his bike in the wet. And I'm like, and I was like P2 and warm up behind Jake. I'm like, holy shit, this setup is so good. Like it just made you feel comfortable. It was as much as like most people just like soften up and, you know, turn down the power of the motorcycle and add TC. It's a lot more than that for attack. You know, they change geometry, they change a whole bunch of shit. I don't know what they changed, but it makes you feel comfortable. So, yeah, it was something because usually I'm scared to death. As you know, you could spit on the track and I'm, you know, putting on the brakes. You know what I mean? So, but no, the bike and the team, how they're set up made the world of a difference.
And so now you get through the season. I mean, for me, it felt like Laguna Seca was a big turning point because you like killed that weekend. Like you just showed up and nobody really thought you were going to do much that weekend, but you really like took it to the two guys that everybody thought was going to just walk away with the entire series. And that was like the turning point for me. And then from there on out, there's a point where you obviously became the points leader. What was it like, you know, your first time being the points leader in Superbike?
Well, it was, so the Ridge was before Laguna. And the Ridge, I really struggled there. We struggled as a team there. But after going home from the Ridge, I ended up going to my wife's family place in Canada for the week. It was a week before Laguna, and I was just, man, I couldn't even sleep. I was just like, that weekend really woke me up. I'm just like, man, we have to get our shit together, you know, because the Ridge was like a real struggle, and I'm really hard on myself, more than the average person, to like an unhealthy way, you know. So going to Laguna, I'm like, I can't have this feeling anymore. Like the feeling of like getting your ass kicked that bad at the Ridge. I was like, I can't have this feeling anymore. It was terrible. It was like somebody killed my dog. So we got to Laguna a little extra motivated, and I usually struggle at that place. So it was, we did our homework, and I'm just like, I never want to feel that feeling again. So we just went out and did as many laps as I could, but used tires, you know, and just put my head down every single lap. I made it count in practice, and it paid off for the races. And then we ended up getting a points lead not long after that, and dude, that was super cool. But you try not to think about the pressure about the points lead. You know, you always try to say like in your mind, like, yeah, I'm not going to worry about, you know, the championship. Take it race by race, but it's always in the back of your head, like, man, I want to keep this lead. You know what I mean? And it is added pressure for sure. Like, but we all have to deal with it. But it is added pressure.